All right, ladies and gentlemen,
The
we are
broadcast.
live with the Red Mountain Goat. Welcome, Red Mountain Goat, to Rants with Rich and usually Rob. That's our cool name for this one.
Right.
Excited
Thanks
to
for
have you
having
here,
me.
dude.
What's
Yeah,
that?
we're excited, dude. This is one that a lot of people have been, I think, pretty pumped about. So
Yeah,
why
I feel
don't
like
we?
I feel
Go
like
ahead.
I've done it. We just didn't record.
Yeah, dude, you're on every single one. So let's get right into it and just tell us who you are, dude. Give us some background. I think everybody sees you on Instagram, and I think they have a little bit of an idea, but it seems like every time I talk to Rob about you, I learn something new. So tell us your background, where you're from, what you do, what a day in the life of the Red Mountain Goat is like.
All right. Well, yeah. So I'm originally from France. Been around in the US since 2007-ish. But this thing that brought me here was riding dirt bikes, really, originally.
Moto.
And then transition to work. So I work in the ski industry forever and work for the Olympic French team and then transition to the Olympic US team. And that's kind of how I got installed in the US and didn't move from there. So I've been around for a while now. What else? Start riding bikes in 1995. So seen everything from full rigid bikes with cantilever brakes to what they are now, and been riding those and working on them and all of that. I work as a manager in Sedona for the Ping Jeep Tour company. So kind of disconnected me from managing the bike shop for a few years to kind of like have a job and then have the bike as what I like to do and not being my job. That was one thing that COVID kind of helped me make that decision too.
What about your education background?
Yeah, so I have a mechanical engineering education. I don't want to call myself an engineer because I think technically I need to do like another year or something of school to be an actual engineer, and I've never worked as an engineer. So,
but you went to school in Europe, right?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, so I think we can call him in America. We call him an engineer.
I graduate what I had to do. So, but yeah, I never really used it. I did work in out of school. I had to do like an internship, and I worked in a very small place that decided to build what now is like those UTVs.
Yeah,
it didn't exist at the time because that was like 2001 or something like that. So I helped design a frame and put a motor in it, and then once we start getting into the suspension stuff and try to stay within the rules of what they're supposed to be, it got pretty complicated. And then it was the end of my internship anyway. So I don't know where that ever went at this point.
In your time with the Olympic ski teams, what was your role?
So like I was basically the mechanic for a skier, if you want to put it that way. Like in the Supercross, those guys have their own mechanic to set up the bikes and answer their questions and work between the factory to the rider to put the right parts and the right settings and all of that. And so, believe it or not, there's a lot of things you can do on skis.
I was just going to say, I'm not a skier. I'm not a big winter sports guy, but so I don't know anything about the nuance of how to make a ski different, how to tune a ski and what one skier might like as opposed to another skier. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so there's two big things that, well, there's more than two, but there's the ski, there's the plate, there's the bindings, and there's the boots. And if you want to split that, comparing to a bike, it's like you have a frame, you have suspension, and you have wheels. It's kind of the same. So what you're going to do on boots is going to change what the ski is doing. What you're going to do on bindings is going to change what the ski is doing. What you're going to do on the plate is going to change that too. And then what you're doing on the ski is going to adjust all of that. So like a lot of things you can do.
So is there a plate under the binding?
Yeah.
That can be stiffer or more flexible?
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
Or in a different position on the ski.
So that would be like your cleats on your shoes.
Yeah, kind
Almost.
of. Yeah, you can move it forward, backwards.
That's crazy.
Have like really
Yeah.
where they're gonna flex in one place but not the other, and
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a lot of that stuff. And so I work for factories. So like, there's two ways to do this. You are either hired by the ski team to be mechanic for those guys that have any brand. So usually at the World Cup level, you have one or two guys, or you work for a factory, like
A manufacturer.
the manufacturer, and the guy that you work for is good enough that the manufacturer actually put the guy on there.
Gotcha.
So I've done that for 3 years. It was one guy that was really good. That never won, but he got second, third, fourth, every position you want except to win. And then I've done it for the ski team for many years.
So yeah, let's Jared, you're right. He does ride for Specialized. We're going to get into that, and he does have a bunch of KOMs in Sedona. One in particular, I don't know how much we'll talk about it.
Yeah,
that might be on his list of what not to talk about.
Right.
So a lot of engineering background. You don't call yourself an engineer, but as a mechanic, as kind of an engineer, I think that term gets thrown around a lot. You
Right.
did it with skis. What about the bike? So give us a little bit more insight into what you've done on the bike. So people know, okay, yeah, you ride for Specialized. You have a lot of KOMs. You're obviously a good rider. I think some of the people watching have seen some of the videos of you and I riding, especially the one on the Stumpjumper where I was following you. And any chance that I've gotten, I've told people I love following Alex because he's amazing.
He rides like an angel.
He rides like an angel. But give us some more insight. Like, you've been riding bikes for a long time, but what level did you ride at? What did you aspire to do? And then a little bit more about what you do now. Like you said, you didn't really want it to be your job. And I think, I don't know, from the outside looking in, you balance it really well. Like, some of it's work, but you seem to have a lot of fun. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I started, like I said, in 95. So I started straight into racing. Like, one of my friend was just getting into this, and he had that Fences bikes. Like, it was one of those kids that has a dad that wanted him to be world champion and just was buying everything he could buy and stuff. And I was riding with him with freaking Walmart bike, really.
Where were you living? Where were you living when you started?
So yeah, that was back in France, obviously.
Okay.
And so I was 14. Actually, I think I was 13, and I couldn't race until I was 14. And like in France, there's a lot of difference than here. As like any kind of sports you're doing, you need to have licensing for insurance purpose and all of that stuff. So you gotta get in a club so you can get your license and all of that. And I couldn't do that until I was 14. So, and my friend was a couple years older than me, and that's how I started riding with him and stuff. And it's like, oh, you need to come to the races and stuff. And so after a few months, I came to the first like whatever local race that we had, and I got third at my first race, which, that's kind of where I put the difference sometimes. Whereas when you hear about World Cup athletes and stuff, they tell you stories and they always won their first race. Well, I didn't. I got third. Maybe that's why I never had a World Cup level racing. So anyway, so that's kind of what started everything. All on that Walmart bike. Broke like 3 forks, and we had to like buy new forks because I was bending them. I put clipless pedals pretty much immediately on it.
How dare you? Oh.
No flats. Jeez, I don't understand it.
And that's how I kind of started. And then after the first year, my parents kind of were like, yeah, we can help you buy a bike, but you need to do it committed for like a whole year. So I did a whole year of racing even some national races with the freaking aluminum Walmart full rigid bike, was like the cheapest stuff you can have on there. And then after a year, they kept their promises. And at the time, if I do the conversion, it was about $500 maybe is the bike I bought. So it had a fork and it had V brakes, and it was like already
State of the art.
Yeah, it was like the top stuff for me, at least.
Yeah. So to give some context, you're similar in age to me, right? Early 40s or just turned 40?
41.
Yeah, 41 now.
Okay. Yeah. That's what I thought.
Yeah. And so anyway, accelerating forward on this, I got like a sponsorship from a local bike shop, and then did a lot of the national races in cross country. So I'm the same age bracket as Absalon, so I did a lot of races in the same time as he was.
Well, didn't you spend a lot of time riding with Jerome too?
Yeah, so same thing with Jerome. We were in the same classes.
Jerome Clements.
Yeah.
And then cross country until I was about U21. So my best results were in the top 10 in France. Few times, won few national races that were not like the Cup or whatever. And then I did a couple of European Cup, and then I did one World Cup in my life, and I broke everything I could break within about 100 feet. So it was not much of an experience. And then I kind of like got to a point where it's like, I gotta try to do this for a living, or I need to go to work. And like the culture in France is really not towards being an athlete. So it was never in my mind really that I could even try. And so I went to school, and it was a special school where you could, you had to qualify for it, where you could train, and you didn't have vacations, you didn't have time off, you didn't have spring breaks and all of that stuff. But we had like an extra year to get the degree, because we were like a small selection of like 20 people maybe of all sort of different sports, and we only had class in the morning until about noon, but all year long. And then we could go to races and whatever event.
So that allowed you to participate in the sport.
Yeah, so it allowed me to stay at a high level while I was still at school. And then after that, when I was done, it was kind of like, what do I do now? And that old ski team job just that kind of happened randomly. And
how old were you when you started that?
22, maybe 21 or 22, something like that.
And so during that, did you keep riding the bike?
Yeah, I never really stopped riding, but I stopped racing for quite a long time.
And then what brought you back into racing? What domain? What discipline?
Yeah, so the enduro was like starting to happen a little bit when I stopped. So like, early 2000-ish in France. And they were more like a one big event, and
like a Super D.
Yeah, like Super D, or like a long day on the bike where they were timing the downhills, which is what enduro is, I guess. And yeah, I never, look back too much. I was like focused on doing my work. And then when I had time off, I was just riding bikes and riding moto. And then that's when I start going to the US to ride moto. And the time where I really got back into riding a lot was 2007. And I really remember really well, because I bought the latest Yeti 575 at the time. And this bike was like way ahead of everything else. It was really aggressive, 6-inch of travel, but they were claiming it was like still a really good pedaling bike and stuff. And there's like, I bought one of those because I was coming in and out of the US already. So it was really cheap at the time for me that had euros. And then I started riding a lot, and met a friend, longtime friend in France that likes doing big rides in the mountains, and we started doing that more and more. Then he came in the US, and we did a bunch of trips and traveled around. And then when I moved to Moab is when I start connecting with a lot of like the racers in the US.
So is that's the first place that you lived when you moved to the US? Was
No,
Moab?
no. I moved into Logan, Utah. So like an hour-ish north of Salt Lake. And the reason why is because I was working with somebody around him in the ski team that his brother lived over there. And so that was kind of my easy point to get to the US and have a place to stay. And like I bought a motor and it was in his garage and all of that. So I lived there for like 3 years. I had just a bedroom downstairs in his house, and I wasn't there that much really, but it was an easy place to be.
That's cool.
Yeah. And then I was going to Moab and ride a lot in Moab all the time. So eventually I had like not a U-Haul, but a Hallmark trailer that was like 12 by 10 by 5 or something like that. And the bike shop in Moab had that on their parking lot. And so my first year in Moab, that was kind of my house. And
is that the trailer that was it that made it to Sedona?
Mm-hmm. The black one.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my bedroom, and then I could use the shower and the restrooms and even the back of the shop to cook and be in the bathroom and stuff. And that's how I moved to Moab. And then I moved in. I was the manager of the bike shop at like a back of a house, and then moved with Kyle for the remaining time over there.
So that's Kyle Mears. So if anybody doesn't know, Kyle Mears, pretty high level rider from Moab.
Long story short now because it's pretty long. But I started riding with a lot of racers, and they all told me like, "Why are you not racing?" And I'm like, "Well, because I feel like I'm old and I've already raced, and I don't know." And the enduro thing was starting to pick up a lot in the US, so kind of jumped into that. Did my first race and got 5th, and it was a really big race. Yeah, like there was GHK and Nate and all of those guys, like Rush Nail, and so I jumped into that right away, and then did a few more. Got a couple of sponsors. I was kind of an ambassador with Yeti at the time. So then those guys helped me out for 3 years. And then I got my Niner contract, which is like my 2 years where I could say I was pro,
Yeah.
Like you can race in the pro class, or you could be a pro when you get checks in the mail.
Boy.
To me,
we're going to get into that.
When you're being paid to do it, you're a professional.
We got to be careful there, dude. Yeah, back then it was pretty cut and dry. And so Niner, you had that contract, and yet we actually raced together, I think once or twice, once at Winter Park at least.
Yeah. I hate that place, by the way.
Rich likes it. Rich has had some good outings there.
It's okay. It's okay there. So you talked about Nate. You said you did a race with Nate, and somebody asked, is that where you originally met Nate?
No, I met Nate a long time ago. Like
him and Mears go way back, don't they?
Yeah, so those guys go way back, and Lars actually is in the mix
from like downhill.
Yeah, downhill racing, and then I met Nate because he was dating a really good friend of mine in 2008. So.
Okay, so that's when you met him, because Jeff Jackson has a pretty important question. He wants to know what it's like having to constantly wait for Nate Hills to catch up to you.
Yeah, he's breathing hard for sure. But in his defense, it is very, very hard to ride as close as he does without seeing anything. So it's one thing. He gets a lot of message of like, "Oh, you need to come here so I can ride with you and show you the trails and stuff." And he's not gonna do this with anybody because he really needs to like trust.
He's got to trust you.
You gotta trust whatever the guy in front is doing, and we're going pretty quick on those trails. Whatever we're doing, a lot of the time is blind. Kind of when we go to new places, we don't even ride it, and we just decide, "Oh, this one looks like it'll be a good downhill or whatever." So yeah, in his defense, is definitely having to work pretty hard without really seeing too much.
And so if anybody's not sure what we're talking about Nate Hills. He's got Follow Cam Friday, and Alex has been in a lot of those episodes recently.
He's right on a lot of episodes.
Yeah, so what he's talking about is when you follow that close, and we talk about this a decent amount with people, and it's kind of a hard thing to explain. We joke around about doing Blue Angel style, and
the problem is
it
that
makes sense.
if you try to follow somebody and they try to outrun you immediately, then they're out of frame, and the footage is no good. It's like you can flex your muscles and show how fast you are, but the guy behind you with the camera is looking at you. He can't see past you. And so if the objective is to get good footage, then you can play to the camera some, but if you're trying to be the fastest guy, you have an advantage in that you see what's coming and the guy behind you doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's something that I think people don't understand. To be able to do that sort of thing, you have to trust somebody like Alex. When I rode behind you on the Stumpjumper, ground control and I think axis and all that other stuff, I'd never ridden any of that stuff. And people, when I tell them that, say, dude, how could you be okay going that fast behind him? Weren't you nervous? And I said, no, I'm not nervous at all. Alex knows me. He knows the level I ride at. I know the level he rides at. He's not going to take me into something that I can't handle. And once you get to that level and you have that understanding, it usually works. Yeah. And there's just some people that it's hard to explain that to them because they don't quite understand that. If you've never been in that place, it's hard for you to understand it.
Well, and like you made that Blue Angels reference. From time to time, with the Blue Angels or the Thunderbirds, guys die, and they die because they're not looking where they're going. They're looking at the guy they're supposed to look at. And if the guy that they're supposed to look at, the guy in front, makes a mistake, there's usually not time for those guys to correct. And that's the thing, is when you put your trust in somebody like Alex, he realizes that that's what you've done, and so he's holding that responsibility. And that's why it's very important that you know and trust the people that you're doing this with.
Yeah, well, I mean, you talk about Blue Angels, Thunderbirds. I mean, it's gnarly. It's gnarly flying a jet. And word on the street that riding this trail, Sunset Ridge, pretty gnarly. So, wait a minute. Come on, guys. Why are you laughing at this? Somebody asked, and I don't remember the exact wording, but it was something along the lines of, is Sunset Ridge the most challenging non-free ride trail in Arizona? That's the first part. Second part is, if it isn't, what is? What's your thought on that, guys?
I don't know. I feel like there's a couple trails in Phoenix area that are as challenging technically. I don't know if it's more fun or better. But if you go do Goat Camp, for example.
Yeah, Goat Camp, very technically challenging.
Goat Camp's pretty technical and
even
has a lot of consequences. Like if you want to try to actually make it work, you got to take pretty big risk. Like Sunset Ridge, there's a lot of effort put into it, and I understand that. I just feel like they could have made it work a little better, and it's just like a little janky in a technical way, but it just doesn't really work that well. Like it's challenging because everything else around it is pretty mellow. So when you get to that, like you don't know what to ride it with. Like some of those hucks at the start, if you ride that with a down bike, it'll be really good. But then the bottom part on the down bike would suck. So I don't know. When we filmed it, like I see the comment on the edit, when we filmed it, I had the Stumpjumper, I had light tires, I had light wheels.
Which is what you would take to Haas.
Yeah, which would be fun. Like on Red Mountain Rush, it was great. But it's like that first huck, if I would have hucked that, I would have probably flat or broke my wheel. So it's like, I don't know. It just don't really work. Like the bottom part is pretty nice. Once you got out of that steep climb, the second part is nicer for sure, but then it's not very long. So so I'm glad somebody asked, because there's a lot of I wouldn't say controversy, but a lot of people.
It's controversy.
A lot of people think the GOAT is for like great of all time, which I don't claim. No. I don't ever claim that. So that story, I'll make it short too, but I was planning to ride Hangover. I showed up at the trailhead, and there was a guy there, and he was unloading his bike, and he was like, "Oh, are you riding Hangover?" And I'm like, "Yeah." It's like, I've been wanting to go. My wife is doing some clinic, and they stay in a hotel, and I can't even stay with her. I have to camp in the desert and stuff. It's like, I can't ride with her, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, well, like, did you ride here like yet? Like, what have you ridden? And so he had done Highline already, and he claimed that he didn't get off the bike too much. So I'm like, yeah, okay, well, let's go. So anyway, we do the climb, and then when you get like at the beginning of hangover, that steep climb to the main saddle, and so I cleaned all of this, and he was already walking on the slick rock. And at the time, I had my trolley sponsorship.
Trolley red pants.
So I had everything red. Like I had shorts, socks, jersey, helmet, everything red. Like I just kind of pick a theme, and that's what my gear was. And when I was waiting at the saddle, and he came up, and he was like, "Oh man, like I can't believe you did this. You're like a goat." And he was like, "A red mountain goat." And that's kind of what it started. Actually, I kind of like that. Like, and I changed my name to this on Strava and on Instagram, and then that was it.
Well, another goat has something to say. Goats make soap. He says, James says, dude, 41, the wine or your riding makes you look
I don't
30.
read wine, so I guess it's an easy answer.
It's I'm gonna bring another one up. We can decide. I wasn't gonna say anything, but somebody brought it up. So I'm not surprised it's Jared. Do you want to talk about this at all?
Yeah, I mean, like the whole thing with this was just what was annoying me the most is that he had to make such a story about it, you know, and he was there for 3 months and he tried 7 times, I guess that's what I heard. And like, this was like a time that I've had when I was training in 2016. And that day I actually did 2 laps. Like I went up on hangover, I did all of hangover, and I did all of hangover again. And so like, I don't know. It was just like the whole story behind it is what kind of annoyed me. And I actually like got off of Strava for a while, and a lot of people were like talking about it, and I didn't even know it happened until months later. And then like one day, and I think we had the discussion with Kyle that one evening. I think it was a Saturday night after Supercross, and it just put it back in my head. And I woke up the next morning, and it was like 7 o'clock, and I'm like, I guess it's kind of cold, but I could go up there. Like there's not going to be anybody over there. And my whole point with this is like, if I was going to go after this, because I mean, it's dumb. It's not the same day. It's not the same condition. So like Strava on that level, it's kind of dumb, but it was annoying me. And so like, my point was like, I need to try and do it the first time, otherwise it doesn't make sense. So I don't know, got up there, and then I tried pretty hard, and then I got it by like 20 seconds or something. And he made a comment like pretty much immediately after I finished my ride.
Oh, I'm sure he got the notification.
And what he said is like, oh, that's not the segment I was going for. I was going for like the whole thing or whatever. And so from there I was like, okay, whatever. So anyway,
YouTube. You know, it's
I mean, he's trying to have a job, I guess, you know, and he needs to find content and all of that. Whatever.
Yep. Yeah, it's funny you bring up Strava and some of the things about Strava. There's a lot of downside to it, obviously, stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, Strava is a really good tool. Like, I really like using it. I use it all the time. One of the reasons is my testing. So, like,
so let's talk about that.
That's what he's segueing into is that was one of the questions that I had for you was obviously you do a lot of product testing for a lot of different companies, and you're riding several different bikes, and so you've got to keep track of all that stuff.
Yeah, and so like the testing with Fox, I'm actually dictated to use Strava because I have a contract with them where they can download the data. So I need to create. They give me a number for what bike I'm using. So whatever, like the past few months, I had a shock on the Stumpjumper. So I tell them I have a Stumpjumper. They send me that shock. Then they tell me, okay, you need to name this bike number. I think this one was 862 or whatever, 882 Stumpjumper. and that's it. So then you gotta pick that bike every time I ride it, so it tracks the time, the hours, and I make extra comments with conditions, temperatures, and stuff like that. And those guys directly download the data from Strava into their system, so they can track all of that stuff. So it's one of the reasons I use it, but I still like to use it. Now, like the ranking and the competition part of it, it's like you would lie if you say you never got into it. You know, when I started doing that, we were like going back and forth with Kyle in Moab, and it was like a game. Like I would go get a time, and he would literally tell me, "Oh, I can't ride today," and
go get it.
I'd go back from the trail and see him going. So anyway, for me, it lasted maybe 3 or 4 months of like being obsessed with it. But then I kind of made the difference pretty quickly, that it's like the conditions are different, the wind is different, the trail is different. And
well,
so,
dude, people cheat. Like people cheat.
Want to race, go do a race.
Well, yeah, that's
the same day.
I got into it when I first started riding in Dallas, just because it was benchmark. I knew who the fast pros were, and my thought was, dude, if I can get times far with certain longer segments, then I can be maybe a legit XC rider. And it was great because I started just picking a bunch of them off. And you know, when they pop up, like when one falls, that you go, wait a minute, I didn't expect that one to drop. And you look, and I mean, it's pretty obvious when you see somebody and you're like, no way. Well, then I realized you could do the overlay and follow. And dude, they're cutting sections off. It's like, dude, really?
Well,
and they're on Facebook talking about it, and yeah, it's just
there's GPS issues sometimes. Like you can even follow your own ride, and all of a sudden there's a spike of you not moving for like 20 seconds, and all of a sudden you're over there. So like, anyway, I don't know. I like using it. If you want to go after your own times, you know, that's something that matters. Like you could do multiple laps. Like if you're testing stuff, you know, you're testing a new bike or you're demoing bike from a bike shop, go do the same loop, and you can use Strava. And if you're able to manage that you're putting the same kind of effort, you can compare your two bikes. So that kind of stuff, it's great.
I want to talk about that. Like, Rob, remember that point. Like, I want to bring that back around to the testing. And I think your ability to do that. Before we do that, though, Cody has a good question. I like this one. What was the most difficult transition between cross-country racing and enduro?
It wasn't very hard, because to me, cross-country racing was hard, and it's not what I do. The enduro, to me, is what I've always done. It's like we go up, we plan a big day, and we try to go fast in all the downhills. It's like, I don't know, that's what I've always been doing.
Yeah, your background was more geared towards enduro than it was cross country, right?
Yeah, definitely. The cross country definitely gave me fitness and discipline and all of that. But yeah, then you know, you just can't go that fast with a cross country bike. There's no answer against that. You know, if we do the same loop as those World Cup racers with a bigger bike, those downhill sections will go faster. There's no question, no matter how good they are.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I've done it for long enough, but I wasn't that excited about it. So the enduro, I feel like if that came earlier, I would have focused on that a lot more.
Didn't you tell me before that you did gymnastics when you were young too?
Oh yeah.
So yeah, a lot of background.
There's all these little pieces that are missing that make up the guy that he is.
Well, my mom couldn't handle. Well, yeah, I was pretty hyperactive, I guess, and so
all of energy.
My mom,
like fire.
My mom went to the local gymnastic place and was like, "Please take him." And it was the same case. They put me in there at 6, and technically you couldn't start before 7. And I don't know. So I did that until I was like 13-ish.
So let's talk a little bit more about the testing process and kind of give people some insight on, I don't know, like the day-to-day. Rob and I were talking about this earlier, and there's just things that you do when you ride your bike, things you do when you're prepping to ride, things you're thinking about when you ride, and the things you do when you're done riding. Like, give us some insight on that. Like, what's prep for a ride for the Red Mountain Goat? What do you do getting ready? What do you
I mean, it kind of depends on what ride it is too, but I don't know. Let's say, yeah, like a 2 or 3 hour ride in Sedona, you know, gotta be mentally ready because that's what you're gonna do. So I'm riding so much that now I kind of have to make my mind of where I'm going before I go, just to kind of motivate myself of like, okay, I'm gonna do this and go there and link with that and do that, and it kind of give me more motivation to get out. And then sometimes it changes while I'm there, sometimes it doesn't. And then the bike, I mean, I look at my bikes all the time. Always lube the chain and clean the drivetrain when I come back, not before I go. Like,
is there a reason for that?
Yeah, it hurts the bike more to lube the chain just before you go than if you go dry. Like, the lube is just gonna grab everything that it can grab while you're riding. As like if you do it when you come back, you clean your cassette, you clean your rings, you clean your chain, you lube it, it sits there for whatever time it's gonna be sitting there until the next day or a few more days, and then you get to go every time the bike's ready to go. I clean the dust wipers, I clean the shock, I clean the dropper post, and then check my tire pressure before I go. That's about it.
Yeah, and you don't like to wash your bike, right?
Well, if it's really dirty, you wash your bike. But if it's just like little bit of dust, little bit of dirt, yeah, it's not necessary. The more water you put on all that stuff, the worse it's gonna be. So metal doesn't like water. So if you can avoid
engineering fact, right?
if you can you can avoid putting water on your bike, it's better. But yeah,
so no pressure washer.
Yeah, washer, little sprinkle. I like using those mechanic wipes. Like you can get those like at the auto store. They have those mechanic wipes. They're like infused with whatever, and it cleans stuff pretty well. So
yeah, I'm along the same lines as that. I don't like to clean it a ton. I get freaked out now cleaning the bikes with Maxxis. I'm like, this is electronic. I can't put water on it.
I like my bikes to be freaking spit polished and shined. I like them hanging in the garage, glistening. I don't even like dust on them.
Yeah, no, I get it. So do you have a specific time frame in mind when you go ride? Like for me now, it's like, oh man, I can go out and get 90 minutes and that's usually pretty good.
Yeah, so
I like it to be more, but
with my job now, it's still fairly flexible, but there's days where I just don't push it, and if I don't ride, I don't ride, and I'm just kind of focusing that the next day I can take more time. And so last year I was pushing pretty hard to go on my lunch break, and then it's kind of a really tight time frame, and I need to shower, and I noticed that I was like getting myself stressed out pretty much to get everything done and then go back to work and stuff. And so now it's a little bit more like I'm going to focus on my days off that I know that I can do a lot. And then a couple days a week, I got off early so I can get like a good 2 hours. And then that allows me to kind of skip like that lunch ride kind of deal where I get all stressed out.
So what's your favorite trail in Sedona?
I don't know. Trail itself, it's kind of hard to say, but
what's your favorite ride?
They're all pretty short. So, yeah, I mean, I really like, if you include the I-line into more riding, it's a pretty complete loop and it's nice. And then,
where did we go?
I guess trail wise, I really like Transept. Transept is still like really tight, really old school kind of raw, and
it's punchy,
not as buffed out than some stuff are getting now. Even a trail like I-line before, like first time I rode I-line was like 2008 maybe, and it was tight and rough and hard, and as it was not the same bikes, it was not the same mindset, so it was different too. And so,
on a 2008 bike, everything's hard.
Yeah, I mean, some of the trails now are getting more flowy because the bikes we have are more prone to ride those trails, and it's more fun, going faster, and all of that. So things have changed, but everything changes and evolves. So yeah, I
I
don't
like
know.
that new. I like that
Yeah.
new stuff, man. The stuff you took me on was nice.
Yeah, I mean, that's why it's so hard to choose, depending what mindset you're in. And I mean, Hangover is super unique, and I really like to ride Hangover once in a while.
Well, where we went Sunday, when we came out of Hangover and we went left instead of right, and we crossed that little road, and then we went up the climb, and then we hit that descent with the drops in it. What was that?
On Hangover?
No, after we left Hangover.
I don't know what that is.
You come out of the back of Hangover, and then normally you would make a right and make your way back to. You make a right, and it's real like hoppy. You're kind of weaving around on that little river bottom, and it pops out to Templeton, I think.
Oh, no, that's Highline.
Yeah,
not Hangover.
No, sorry, yeah, not Hangover, Highline. So you come out of Highline, and then
so
we made a left.
We turned left on Baldwin.
Oh, Baldwin, that's right.
Yeah. So there's a lot of little section of trails that are not even, if you look at a map, there are nothing at all. But if you connect it with the right thing and you kind of make a point of like this plus this makes like, for Sedona, a 4-minute kind of downhill, it's a pretty good downhill. Like, I don't know if you saw one of the Instagram thing that Nate posted this week, like even took me a few seconds to was like, wait, where was this? It was like a couple section of trail that just looked good and are fun to go fast, but it's just a short section of trail that you wouldn't point anybody to go there because they wouldn't probably even find it.
Yeah. So what about this? If somebody's listening now and they're trying to plan a trip to Sedona, if somebody comes to Sedona, they have a weekend, what must they ride?
Well, it depends on your level, obviously.
Let's say they're a decent intermediate rider.
I'd say when you come to Sedona for the first time and never experienced it, like riding some of the new stuff from the cultural center give you a good idea. So you part of the Gardner Trailhead and you go down like Last Frontier and you go all the way to where Grand Control is and do access down. And if you don't have any problem on this, then you can like step up and go and do probably Highline the first one. That'll be the more tame. Then the Hogs is I know it's a classic, but it's pretty short. So like a lot of people go do a Hogs from the bottom trailhead, and it's like a 3-mile loop, So if you just do Hogs, there's not much to it. So it's more to include it to some other trails.
But if you're on your way to Hogs, you got to climb up Little Horse Kicking Falls, right?
I depend on which way you're going.
Yeah, you come in the other way.
Yeah,
I got up that one.
Yeah, Little Horse
Waterfalls. Good challenge.
Yeah. Those are some good ones. I agree. What about this? Ethan asks, is there any skill that you're working on right now? Something you're trying to master? And do you have any sort of a process when you're working on them?
Manuals. Alex is working on manuals.
Not really. I can't do a manual in the street, but I can apply it to the trail. So it's like, that's kind of where it matters to me. I can do a wheelie for long enough, I guess. But those are like show skills more than useful skills.
You don't need the party skills.
I guess one that I work on all the time, especially if I'm trying to go fast, is always looking up, like always looking past where you think you're looking. And that's valid, with everything. Like the car racing that I'm doing, it's such a focus to like look ahead, like looking one step ahead of what you're doing. And on a bike and mountain bike in particular, it's a little tricky because there's a lot of stuff in the way,
Yeah, you get distracted by things close.
There's rocks, there's holes, there's branches, so it's kind of scoping the trail all the time, and that's what I'm definitely like trying to focus on them more often.
Yeah, I think that's probably the single most critical thing anybody can do to ride better, because you give yourself more time to deal with stuff on the trail. That's one of the things Rich and I always talk about in the clinics is if you can just look ahead, you won't be constantly surprised by everything that you come across.
Yeah. That's one that, and I think anything, like whatever skill you're trying to work on, if you work on it and actually make it a process, like turning for me, every time I ride, I'm always thinking about turning. And my process for breaking it down is I pick 3 or 4 turns or sections of turns where I normally ride. I always work on those. And so I can get the data as I go through. Did it feel good? Did it not feel good? And for me, that's more what I'm trying to do. And I'm cognizant of that. The percentage I'm thinking about it goes up and down.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's just, for me, that just seems to work. We had a couple questions. I'm seeing these pop up. I want to jump into some of those, dude, because obviously, like from a product standpoint, from a bike setup standpoint, you've done a lot. You have a lot of info. Hariz has one that I think is great: alloy versus carbon wheels. You know, what are your thoughts on? Is one better? Are there advantages, disadvantages?
Well, so his question is mixed up already, because alloy versus carbon, yeah, good question. Now, rotational weight doesn't necessarily mean that one or the other is always lighter. There's a lot of aluminum wheels these days that are lighter than the carbon ones, because the companies are start to figure out the width. Like if you remember a few years ago, everybody was saying you gotta have 40 mils, 35 mils, you know, and now it's coming back down to like a 30 as a wide rim today. You know, a lot of companies are 25, 26, 27. The downhill racers are running 25 millimeter internals. So like with stands, I test for stands, so I know their product better. But like an arch carbon versus an arch aluminum, the arch aluminum is almost 100 grams lighter. So yeah, the weight does matter.
Well, and I think with this question, he may have been under the assumption that carbon is always going to be lighter.
Not necessarily, yeah.
Yeah, so you've made that point. It's not necessarily the case. And then the next question on rotational weight.
Well, no, rotational weight is one of the biggest things for sure. Like if you save a pound or 2 in your wheels, that's gonna change your bike.
Yeah, your pedaling feel will be different.
But the biggest thing for me, alloy carbon, is how they're gonna ride. Lot of the carbon wheels, especially these days, like unless you go full cross country racing, but a lot of like the enduro-ish trail carbon wheels, they're gonna be more compliant, and they have a lateral stiffness that makes it efficient to pedal, but they're more comfortable most of the time. Like if you get in rock gardens and bumpy sections, they'll deflect more than an aluminum was gonna do. And to me, that's the biggest difference.
What do you prefer of the two?
Right now, I have some carbon ones that I like, but I actually just got shipped a set of aluminum. I'm going to a 6-day race early summer, and I'm gonna be pretty remote, and you know, I just feel more comfortable to have aluminum wheels, because if I hit something and I need to fix it or whatever, it'll be less critical than if you just break a carbon wheel and the race is over.
Yeah.
So,
what about this? We'll kind of open up this can of worms a little bit. Ruckman said that he'd argue suspension efficiency or tire compound can have a bigger effect. I mean, what do you guys? Both of you guys are pretty dialed into this.
Yeah, I mean, tires, you contact to the ground, so your bike can be the best bike ever. If you have shitty tires, it won't work. So tires is a huge thing, and it's a huge improvement in the past 10 years or so. Like what we request from tires now is insane compared to what they could take 10 years ago. So yeah, and then suspension is the next one for sure.
Yeah, I agree that the difference between like a standard casing, like an exo casing tire and a double down is shocking. I mean, it's so stark, it's so significant in every aspect of the way the bike handles and pedals, as compared to the difference to me between like a carbon set of wheels or an alloy set of wheels. Yeah, I would agree with Alex. The tires are a massive game changer.
We disagree a little bit on tires as far as the double down casing. Like you guys like to ride those insert with a normal casing tire, and to me, I feel like I have so much more option to just change casing versus having an insert. And the way I ride, like most of the races, even the really bad, like rocky, bumpy races, I could a double down is plenty of tire for me.
So one thing I was gonna point out is, so Rich, between you and I, you're kind of like we joke, you're kind of cold trickle. Give me a bike, I'll ride it. I don't really care.
That's right, baby.
With me, there's much more specificity. It has to be the way that I need it to be. Everything has to be just so. And I would say Alex is like the next exponential for me. But what's funny about, and he and I kind of go back and forth, me making fun of him and him making fun of me, because his setup, you know, his handlebars are rolled down.
Yeah.
They're flat. They're not down.
Well, all the time. If you look at it from the side, it's how they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, man.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, but it's really funny when you spend time with Alex and you see how his setup, everything is how he wants it, and it's got to be how it has to be. It's funny. We were like, when we were talking earlier, and you made the comment about the different shoes, and he says, well, the sole of that shoe is thinner, and so if I use that shoe, I have to change my seat height.
Yes, that's right. It's like, wait a minute, you change your seat height because you realize the sole of the shoe is bigger. It's like, come on, dude, you're that dialed in.
I have been using the same saddle for probably 10 years. So like, I know what angle it needs to be, and I know how it feels on my butt. Like, so if my seat height is off, especially too high off, I have pressure on my seat bones, and I know exactly right away. Like it happened today. Oh, yeah. I rode a new bike today, and I measured the seat height that I'm supposed to be, but you know, the measurement like on the side and stuff, it's never exactly perfect until I ride the bike. Like,
and your butt says not right.
you ride a bike uphill for long enough, and if I get those pressures, I know it's too high. And yeah, I had to drop it a couple millimeters, so whatever that is in inches with numbers, and that was it right away. So yeah, my seat height and my cockpit are the two things that, like, I have a hard time dealing with it if it's not where it needs to be.
Well, Rob, you're very similar, right? I mean, your cockpit.
Yeah, well, that's like, so what I was trying to convey, I think last time we talked, was I can't tell somebody what their setup needs to be, but once they find it, then they need to extrapolate it into an easy to remember measurement that they can take from bike to bike. And that will allow them to replicate a comfortable feel on a bike that's maybe bigger than ideal or a bike that's smaller than ideal. I mean, that's what I do is I have that 20-inch number. And if I can replicate that 20-inch number with the seat in a comfortable pedaling height, then I know that the bike is going to feel good for me.
Well, I think another thing too, and we've said this a lot, Alex, you've probably spent a long time getting to that setup you have. You've tried, I'm assuming, a lot of different things. You didn't just do something somebody told you to do, right?
No, yeah, not really. It just kind of happened by riding. The funny part though is, I think it's 3 or 4 years ago now, I went to specialize at the main house in California, and they have a whole fit machine that you can buy in a retail store to offer fits to people, and that thing has lasers and like measure you everywhere. And my seat height recommendation from the machine was 1 millimeter for what I've always used, so I was pretty close. One of the really weird thing with that is it was telling me to like wear like a size bigger shoe or something, and I was like, I know what size shoe I need. I don't need the machine to tell me that.
Put 2 quarters in your left pocket every time you ride.
But
that's pretty funny.
Yeah, it was kind of a feel thing, and like being balanced on the bike and center in the right place and all of that. And then I saw a question on the side that was talking about how to figure what you sit forward as needs to be, and your seat height and all of that, and your cockpit size. Well, one of the best ways to get a fit, go get fit by somebody that's certified to do fit, and they'll put your own bike on a stand. Like we were
Yeah.
offering it at my shop. They'll put your own bike on the stand and then adjust, there's some theories around it that you can learn that are not that complicated. And that's a base to do. So I've done that as my base and then kind of adjusted by how it feels. And I've done it for long enough that I don't need to change that today. Like it evolved a little bit. Like the new geometry bike bring my cockpit almost a whole centimeter longer than I used to have. So
is that because of how slack bikes are getting?
Not how slack, how long, I guess, how long the top tube is. So I adjusted to that. And the other thing is I don't like to change my stem length. So my bikes need to have the right measurement with the 40 millimeter stem, because the 40 millimeter stem and your handlebar where they are is going to be the relationship to where the front wheel of your axle is. So if you do this input with a 40 millimeter stem, it's going to do something. If you do the same input with a 50 millimeter stem, it's not going to do the same thing. So between all the bikes that I want to have, they need to kind of match my cockpit measurement with a 40 millimeter stem. I'm trying always to be in that range.
Yeah, but what do you think about if you figure a 2-degree difference in head angle, that has a huge effect on where the axle is in relationship to the 40 mil stem?
It could be, depending what your seat angle is. And a lot of the time now, when the head angle is that much slacker, your seat angle is that much vertical, which the weight of the system, which is you and the bike together, is a lot more forward. So even if that head angle is that much slacker, the weight and the reaction to your front wheel is going to stay fairly the same. That's what I found out.
Well, it's funny. I changed the saddle on one of my bikes and I had it pitched a little bit too far forward. And how I realized was it was hurting I had so much pressure on my wrists. It was hurting so much. I'm like, holy shit. So I adjusted the saddle just like a millimeter. The tip brought it up. And the difference that it made, just the tip, the difference that made was just shocking. I couldn't believe it. But going the other way, if somebody's running their saddle tipped up and they're having trouble washing out, if they lower the front of that saddle, that would automatically their weight a little bit forward, I think.
So we'll dive into those things a little bit more. Let me answer Ruckman's question first. Rob, do you think there's any chance that I'm sipping on vodka?
Absolutely not.
No, I'm not sipping on vodka.
Maybe Element, maybe, or
it's Element, Ruckman, of course. It's Element. You should get yourself some. And this is another one, Cody, the reminder. Make sure you hit the like to grow the channel. I forget about this stuff, dude. I'm not.
Smash that like button.
I'm not a YouTuber, dude.
Not commercial enough.
I'm not. I'm going to get in shape and go chase some KOMs like Mackie Franklin, I guess. I don't know, man.
Right.
I don't really care about it that much.
Super chat yet.
Well, you won, and we're talking about it right now. So.
I forgot. Yeah, it's okay. Don't worry about it. We'll get all that stuff figured out. But look at this, Philippines. Philippines is in the house. We had some others from other places. I saw this pop up from Robert. High intensity racing riding. Do you practice any special breathing or muscle relaxing controls to keep focused? This is not a question that a lot of people will ask.
Yeah, I actually breathe really loud when I'm racing. And I force myself to do that.
I can attest to that because when we had him run the camera for us at Brian Head, there was a lot of breathing sounds.
Yeah. I've been told by a few really high level guy. If you watch the World Cup downhill, Loris Verge is doing it, and Fabien Barrel was doing that. So I tried one day, and it seems like it was good. So yeah.
What do you do? Give us a little bit more input here. Just breathe loud.
Yeah, breathing really loud from the mouth, and so especially on the exhale part of it. So you inhale a lot, and then just accentuating from the mouth, and I feel like I don't know. I never like look at the theory on it. Just I know
Yeah.
some of those guys were doing it, and I just start trying, and it seems to be working. I have the feeling that it kind of relax the upper body. So not necessarily about cardio, but more about muscle, like he's asking. So try to do that and see if that works.
What about you, Rob? Do you have anything?
I just try to make sure that I'm breathing in through my nose, exhale through my mouth. But so when I'm doing my regular rides, I have like a breathing technique that I utilize. So I like to monitor my heart rate when I ride. That's kind of my gauge on how hard to push, and that gives me an idea of where my fitness is at. I know what my range should be on some of these climbs, and if I'm over revving before I should, if I'm peaking before I should, and then there's certain areas of the trail after a huge effort where I know I've got room for maybe 20 breaths. And sometimes what I'll do when I'm really maxed out, like I'm getting a closed in peripheral, then I'll basically count. And when I almost feel like I can't catch up, like I'm starting to hyperventilate almost, I'll start to count the breaths, and I'll try to do 4-second inhales, 4-second exhales. And by 10 breaths, usually my heart rate's back down to a very reasonable number.
Yeah.
And it's funny to me how I use these techniques to distract myself from what I'm dealing with. And suddenly it allows me to get away from it very quickly.
Yeah, it's the same thing for me. It's not always exactly the same in regards to technique I use, but it seems like when you think about it and you try to do something, that helps better than just going for it wide open.
And, for me, I think it's more of a mental trick than it is a breathing technique.
Yeah, well, one of the other things that I always tried to do was not let my heart rate get too high. So my thought process was, especially with the bigger races, like that's why the stuff around here is so hard. When you got a stage that's 45 seconds, it's like grip it, rip it, wide open as fast as you can. And I don't rev that way. I don't work that way. So when
there's no strategizing in a race like that.
No. And when I have something that's 5, 8, 12 plus minutes, I can go out tempered and I can almost get up to temp. So I remember Jared Graves talking about it.
I think about that stage at Glorietta. I thought it was
good. My God. Oh, dude, it was horrible. And then there was that climb towards the end.
The climb, then the next climb, and then that other climb. I thought I was
all of those climbs, yeah. So that's a good one. This is one we talk about this one a lot. Hub engagement, Hydra versus something that has 3 to 4 degrees of engagement, pros, cons. Rob, you have a lot of great input on this. So I want to hear your thoughts, and then Alex, I want to hear what you think.
Well, here at South Mountain, there's a ton of technical lifts. And I think if you're riding on technical lifts, not necessarily climbs, but if you're riding technical lifts where you're disengaging, re-engaging, hitting quick resets, circumstances where pedal engagement is critical, and a degree makes the difference between success and failure. The better engagement you can get, the better it's going to work. It doesn't mean that you can't get away with less. Especially if you never ride something good, you can probably become very adept with something that's not great. But that's the only circumstance where I feel like I really need it. And unfortunately for me, where I ride every day is a place that benefits from it.
What about rolling resistance?
I don't notice that. I've heard people say that the better the hub engages, the more resistance there is, but I believe in my heart that I9 wheels roll 10% better than anything else I ride. I literally believe that I can feel the difference, and I've had people agree. I mean, I'm not a scientist. I'm not an engineer. I haven't measured it with a machine or a device.
But you did sleep at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
That's correct. That's correct. And I watch a lot of bike racing on TV.
Yeah. Alex, what do you think, dude?
Maybe it's a sound effect. Oh, I mean, I'm not super bothered with engagement, but like you said, if you have to ratchet all the time and like have to crank up anything that needs ratcheting and instant engagement, then it makes sense. Um, Now, if you're riding with more momentum and you cleaning all of the obstacles without having to pedal, then you can just time your pedal later on when you still have speed and the engagement don't
Yeah.
matter that much. So, I mean, going, for the cheapest hub you can have, that OEM, like as of today, like a $5,000 bike doesn't have super nice wheels, unfortunately.
No, it
And
does
so
not.
those hubs are pretty poor engagement and pretty poor um, reliability. Actually, usually it's only 3 paws, and it's only one tooth on the paws and not two, and like ratchet rings and all of that stuff. So those, like, from this to anything that has, like, he's asking, like, 6 degrees or less, that's a huge difference now between 5 or 6 degrees to whatever people claim, unless you have like full instant engagement.
Like an
I
Onyx
don't
or
know.
something.
For me, it's like, I feel like you can get away without having crazy engagement just by the speed that you clear the obstacles. But it has a lot to do with where you ride, for sure. So,
Oh yeah. What about this one? I did not know this. Maxxis changed the EXO Plus now. Do you know about
I
that?
saw that earlier. So the 120 TPI and the 60 TPI always exist. So basically, 60 TPI has less cross red but more rubber. So they sell you the 120 TPI to be higher end because technically it is. It has more cross threads on the side and all of that. But then they allow that to put less rubber on it, so your tire sometimes is lighter. So if you, for example, take assay guy, if you buy the straight up exo assay guy 60 TPI, it's almost 1,200 grams, and so it's gonna be a stronger tires than if you buy the exo plus that's 120 TPI.
Oh, interesting. Okay. And so going like Silk Shield to butyl strips, what's that all about?
The silk shield is like a middle band that has more puncture protection in the middle. They were doing that a few years ago. I didn't know if they were doing that on Nexo Plus. So if that's the thing, what he's talking about, then I don't know about those. I know, like, on the, for example, I used to ride the SS, the rear tire, the Minion SS, and they had a silk shield version where the middle band was a little more reinforced to not have punctures. So if they put that on Exo Plus, it might be good. Like, honestly, I didn't experience much difference between a good Exo and Exo Plus. Like, to me, you step to the DD and that's a bigger difference right there.
So what tires do you normally run? So which version, which compound?
So
what do
it
you
depends
normally run?
on the bike. That's one of the comment I did when you were talking about the new Firebird that comes with the DD casing tires. Like, if you're gonna ride a 170 travel bike, and those bikes are designed to hit big stuff and go fast, you're gonna be coherent, and that's why they sold it with double down tire. Like, to me, that's a really good move from the company to do that, because if you start putting lighter tires or lighter wheels on that kind of travel bike, then you might break something or you might get flat. So my bigger bike, I have a DD in the back all the time, and I have usually a regular XO in the front. If I'm racing, I go DD and DD, and like a race like Brian had, it's like rocks everywhere, so I go downhill casing.
Oh wow, I didn't realize that.
And I don't have a problem doing that. Like, I've never had a flat in my racing career, so I think I might have lost sometimes because I was using sticky tires when maybe I shouldn't some days. But the time that I may have lost on the speed of the tire, I gained it by being confident I wasn't gonna get a flat. So yeah, to me on a big bike, that's kind of the setup. And then on a trail bike, yeah, like Exo Plus, or I ride some of the Specialized tires right now. So the new Grid Trail are pretty strong, and it seems to work pretty good in Sedona. So
Yeah, I've been running the Specialized tires recently, and I like that Eliminator in the back, Butcher in the front. And, they got the T7, T9, all that stuff. There's some cool tires. Somebody asked, what 6-day race are you doing?
the Trans BC.
Trans BC. So not
Trans
so much
BC,
BC bike race.
No, so BC bike race is more the cross country race where you got quite a bit of miles point to point every day, and they're kind of going across whatever region of BC, I guess, in Canada. The Trans BC is big day of enduro, so I've done it twice already, but it was 5 years ago, and those trails over there were some of the steepest stuff I've ever seen. And it was pretty shocking. It was pretty shocking. And the way the bikes are now, and how slack they are, and how big they can be, I'm really wanting to go and experience the race again with one of those bikes.
So which bike are you taking?
Well, it's a little tricky. I don't quite know yet, but I think I got a good idea so far. And I saw a question on the side here, so that would match that. Specialized went with new sizing the past couple of years, and they started this on the Stumpy Evo, the very first one. Then they released the Enduro like a year later, and then their sizing was different than that Stumpy Evo. So then they released the new Stumpjumper and then the new Evo, and all three of those bikes don't match the sizing. So if you buy an S2 Enduro or an S2 Evo or an S2 Stumpjumper, they're all different. So with the Enduro, I'm between the two sizes. Like an S2 is too short and an S3 is too long. So my only option with Specialized is to do a Stumpy Evo, because it could be as slack or even slacker. And just gonna put a big fork on it and a big shock on it and big tires on it, and it'll be slack for the steep stuff, but it won't be quite as big as a bike that I could use. So that's right I'm going right now. And so the question on the side was, he's an enduro racer, and you want
bikes on.
You want one bike for.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah. So if you're doing enduro races, definitely Evo, no question. And if you fit in the enduro, then get an enduro. The Stumpjumper, the regular Stumpjumper is an amazing bike, probably one of the best bike I've ever had. And you gotta keep it to what it is. Like, it is not an enduro bike. It is not a race bike. It's a really fast trail bike, but it's really light and doesn't have a lot of travel. And even if it has a pretty aggressive geometry, it's still not a race bike. So I would definitely go Evo for sure. And if you can try an Enduro, the Enduro would do better. Now, where do you race is the other question.
Yeah, I of the three, I like the Stumpy Evo the most. I didn't really love the Enduro.
Yeah, maybe you're between the sides.
Because I rode that three. Well, what's weird is the cockpit feels small, but the wheelbase is enormous.
Yeah, that's why I went with it.
Of an S4 feels good, but the bike is just so long.
Yeah, that's a big bike. What about this one?
Your bike is today.
You guys have been riding the Impulse Hub. Thoughts, durability, performance?
Yeah, so I've had that. I've had that bub testing for almost 2 years now, I think. So one of the latest wheel set I'm running right now has like the production version, and I think I'm at 32 weeks right now of using it without doing anything at all. It did get a little play, but they have cones. There's a nut that you can adjust to adjust the play. I did that once or twice maybe over the 32 weeks, and that's about it. So no bearing problems, no pause problem, no, there's the occasional pop that you can hear, but pretty much any hub does that. So, and a lot of the time it's not under power, it just releases. So yeah, I think it's a big improvement from the new one, from the old one, sorry.
Yeah.
Thanks, Miguel Navarro. Appreciate it, buddy.
Miguel Navarro, he says, "What's up, fellas? $5 super chat. I forget about those, man.
I love it.
I forget. Yeah.
Yeah, that stand hub, I've been riding it about 3 months, and I say it feels about the same as a torch hub used to be. I have no issues with the engagement. It's been really good for me.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you right now, a Stumpy has no business at North Star or probably China Peak. So, I would say definitely Stumpy Evo.
Yeah, Evo or Enduro, if you can look at the sizing and see what fits the best. If you already have a cockpit length that you're comfortable with, like try to get on each of those bikes and see what your cockpit's doing. The Enduro will have the extra travel for,
North Star.
Yeah, North Stars and those kind of places. It's still pedal really good. So
you've had some
what matters.
You've had some decent time on Enduro, Alex.
Oh yeah. I got it just before it came out, and then I had the 38 on testing at the time before it was released. So I had that bike with a 38 for 8 months, and that's all I had to ride. So that's what I was riding every day in Sedona, and that wasn't too much of a problem. So it does.
Yeah, I don't have much time. I don't have much time on mine. I tried to ride it the other day.
But the thing is that I was on an S2, and it matched about what I was comfortable with. But like I explained earlier, I got used to stretch myself a little bit more on the new Geos, and now the S2 really feels too tight. And to match my cockpit, I would need to get a 60 stem on the S2, and it just defeat what the bike's supposed to be ran.
That's that kind of crazy. Something Rob Drew would do. 60 mil step.
He said he's 5'11" and 3/4 and used to a large mega tower. So a 470 reach,
so the Enduro is 463 with a 76 head angle, so seat angle. So
that's an S3, right?
The S3 Enduro probably would fit you pretty good.
I don't think so, dude.
Well, if he's looking for a 470 reach, I think isn't the S4 475?
I don't know, but I'm 5'10" at best in shoes, and the S3 is just right on the border of too small. I just think approaching 6 foot, the S4 might be better, especially at some higher speed places. But I don't know, because I've never ridden one. For me, it's funny because I have the S3 Stumpy Evo and the S3 Enduro, and they both feel super compact. So they feel good together. But then I jump on like the Delano that's 482 or something reach, and it's way.
But what is the seat angles on those bikes? Because like the reach number now, the
Fazzari gets away with it because the seat angle is
the reach number is related to your cranks. Like it's a vertical line to the crank axle. So your seat angle being way back or way up front, your cockpit feel is going to be different in your measurement. And so the reach really goes with the seat angle now to kind of like calculate what the bike is going to feel like. So I don't know what the Mega Tower seat angle is, but if that seat angle is about like 76 or 76 and a half with a 470 reach, then the S3 Enduro will work perfect.
Yeah, it's funny now because the numbers, it's hard to go just by the numbers until you get a feel for the bike because not everybody's as dialed into it as you are. What about this?
It's funny how the same reach number from bike to bike can be completely different.
Yeah.
That's why I have that number that I go by, that 20 inches. That's my number.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. But you can only measure it if you get the bike in front of you.
That's true. So like what I would tell Bike Som is
that's
go
why
try to go ride the bike, try to demo the bike so that you can see, especially with the S sizing.
that's why that seat angle matters a lot when you're looking at it on paper.
Yeah.
Like, depending what the seat angle is, that reach is gonna reduce a lot more in the cockpit.
Yeah. Let me go back to this one real quick, Ruckman. No, this is not even close to the longest live stream. We have well over an hour to go before we get to the longest one. But I'm gonna go back to Hariz. What about fork offset, guys? How much does fork offset matter?
I think it matters a ton, but I'm curious what Alex's opinion. When you're working with Fox, do they have you test different offsets?
Yeah. So I was quite part of that. I think 4 or 5 years ago at this point.
When everything went to 51?
And they wouldn't know when everything went to 44.
Okay.
And they didn't tell me, so I didn't know what I had. And yeah, at first it was a little bit disturbing. It was a little tighter, and like just what I'd explained about the stem, with the same input, if your fork offset is different, the wheel's doing something different. So what I would say is it does matter for sure, but I don't think you need to play with that because most of the frame now are designed around the shorter offset. So if you're putting those longer offset on some frames that's designed for the shorter one, I don't think you're gonna get benefits from that very much.
So would you agree if you're buying the frame, would you recommend if somebody's going to do a custom build that they would reach out to the manufacturer to find out what offset they intended when they built that bike?
It usually says so.
Okay.
When you buy just a frame.
Yeah, I think that's good. I was about that.
But yeah, these days, everything's around 44 now, and part of that is because how slack the geo became. Like, between a 44 and a 51, you're gonna have almost an inch in your wheelbase.
Okay, so explain then what is fork offset. I'm sure there's got to be somebody in this group of 68 going, dude, what are these guys talking about even?
Yes, it's the offset is integrated in the crown of the fork. So you have the axle of the fork going through your frame, and then you have the axle of the fork going through your wheel. And the offset is the difference of the distance of those two if you draw parallel line. And if you move that distance more or less, your wheelbase is gonna change. So the reason why all the forks went to reduce offset is because all of the geometries went to way slacker angle and way longer wheelbase. So that's a way to not have like stupid gigantic bikes.
So you don't think some of them are already stupid gigantic?
Yeah, even though they're pretty far now.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, you're old school, dude. What do you think of these new long, low, slack bikes? Is it getting out of hand?
I mean, there's a limit to it, I think. I mean, we probably said that before too, but
yeah, but some of the new bikes, like I think about the Spire. On paper, to me, that thing just looks like it wouldn't work. It just seems like it's too much, but
yeah,
I hear it's good.
Really good bike. I had one for about a month.
Yeah.
The Spire and another one was that reach story. The reach on the Spire medium is 460. So when I want to try that bike and I was looking at that, I'm like, wow, this is long. But then the seat angle is 78.5 or something. So I actually had to ride that bike with a 45 stem to get my cockpit length because it was that much further ahead.
Okay, so how about Miguel here? He's the only one so far with the super chat, so we're going to answer this. He's got a hard time dialing in tire pressure. So how would you teach somebody what are your recommendations, both of you guys? Let's start with you, Alex. What are your recommendations on how to dial in tire pressure?
I'm not sure what he means. Like, is it the measurement that you want to dial in or what tire it should be running?
Let's say he's got a feel for what tire he wants. How should he go about figuring out what pressure he should be running?
I mean, it's like body weight, what kind of bike it is, what kind of rims you have. So it's a little bit of a lot of variables there, you know,
and the type of terrain,
how wide the tire is, what casing the tire is, you know. But yeah, for general rule, I feel like it's about, you know, how much do you weight and how big of a bike it is, and then what kind of terrain you're running. I'm not a super fan of very low pressure because I don't like to feel the tires squirming around. But I'm not very heavy also, so it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard without all of the other variables.
What do you think, Rob?
Well, I would say if you're running into a problem with grip, you can increase your grip by lowering the pressure. But if the pressure gets low enough that you start dinging the wheel, you start feeling some of the obstacles, the tires compressing completely, or like Alex is saying, when you load into a corner, you feel the tire wanting to roll off the rim. That's a situation where you're probably going to need to add a little bit of pressure. So the trail circumstances, I think, dictate a lot. Like a place like Haas, where it's kitty litter, you know, loose over hard, and flat corners where you can wash out. That's a place where I would tend to maybe drop a couple of pounds of PSI to get more grip. But here in South Mountain, there's so many jagged rocks you can hit that I'm always going to bias a couple of pounds stiffer or a couple pounds higher pressure to avoid damaging my wheel or getting a snake bite, you know, cut the tire.
Yeah, that's great input. Look at this, Casey. Our man, Casey, Rob. Dude, this guy's on it every time. I love it. Thanks, Casey. He says he's 6'4". He rides with a 170 mil dropper. He's constantly hitting the seat on slower drops, high-speed rollers, and other features. Does he need a longer dropper or to adjust how he rides?
Yes, he needs a longer dropper.
Yeah,
I'm running 200 mil droppers on bikes where it fits.
Yeah, if you can fit it.
And I never feel like it's too low. I mean, you know, the lower I can get the seat out of the way, especially for technical terrain, the better it is for me. Yeah. So I would say as long a dropper as he can fit in his frame is what he should be using.
Yeah. What about
drop you can as long as it fits?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. What about this one? ETT, effective top tube, I'm assuming is what that means. So effective top tube versus reach. I guess Ruckman's asking, do you go by one more than the other?
Yeah, I usually, like I explained before, I match the reach with the seat angle. That's what I focus the most on. And when we talk about cockpit lengths is seated, obviously.
Yep.
Because you know, you spend more time climbing your bike than you go down. So that's where I want to be comfortable.
Yeah. So this Snap here is making a comment. The longer offset gives you more stability. I think there's a limit.
In theory, it does, because it'll accentuate the wheelbase. So yeah.
But if you already have a massive wheelbase, another inch is going to be even worse.
Yeah. Well, and the stability, I think, more comes from the head angle than it does the offset of the fork.
In a modern bike,
Yeah, definitely. This is a great question from Eric. He wants to know when the Rad Series is coming to Canada, a.k.a. Moose Mountain area. I don't know where Moose Mountain is. We'd love to bring it to Canada, but
where Moose Mountain is.
I don't know what's happening in Canada. All I know right now is all the truckers are heading to Ottawa. And
I think we are a boot to go to Canada. That's what I think.
I'm trying. We got Oklahoma.
We're a boot to do a Ride Series up there.
We're gonna do Houston next week. We gotta get some numbers up, man. The numbers are low at the Ride Series. I gotta mark it. I just think we put them out there and people just.
You think people know and they don't. I
do, man. I do. We're gonna go here. We all know what the Drew brothers feel about inserts, but Alex, you don't like inserts, right?
Yeah, I mean, I talked about it earlier. I feel like with my weight and my riding, I have a lot of room to go in bigger casing tires before dealing with an insert.
Have you ever have you ever spent time riding with them?
Just a little bit.
I think
not enough to judge it, but I don't have a problem with tires. And like I said, I never got a flat in a race in all of the races I've done. So
you don't know what you're missing.
yeah, I think a lot of people say that, but Nate doesn't like an insert either. I think for racing, it has more purpose because you can keep riding pretty hard if you do get a flat. Because one of the misinformation with cush core and insert is that you still get flats.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You still get flats.
It's a ride feel. I understand that, but you know, if you put a full downhill casing tire, it's a ride feel also.
Yeah, my problem is I hate the feeling of a downhill casing tire, and so I would rather risk getting flats than run that tire. And with the cush core, I feel like I can run just exo casings. I still will potentially get flats, but the grip benefit for me is just off the chart. The handling, and this is what I tell people all the time. You know, if you think you're going to buy these and never get flats again, that's not the case. But what you will experience is handling benefits that you've never experienced before, and that's the thing that
you want to talk about experience. I got a good experience going right now because the super chats are rolling in. I Revive Sender. He's in the Chicago area. Pat Hoffman coming through. $5 super chat.
$5 super chat. Hey, Dad.
Pat went to a smaller dropper. Wow. I guess, yeah.
If the frame doesn't have the depth, and before the dropper tops out, it's too high for you, then that's too much drop.
Yeah, I ran in that problem all the time. Like I can pretty much run only 150s on any bikes I have because my seat height is not high enough to put the big droppers all the way in.
Yeah, well, I'm 5'11". I can usually get by with a 170 on any bike, but two of my bikes I am running 200s on, and I don't dislike it.
Yeah, I mean, dude, that's where I'm at. Like, I have a bunch of 150s, I have a couple 170s, and I hop on your bikes, and it's amazing how much better it is with 30 more millimeters. It's just, it's crazy. Hari's coming in 499.
There's nothing worse for me when I feel like the seat isn't down, like I'm getting ready to get into something technical, and I feel like my seat's not down all the way, and then I go to check it, and it doesn't go any lower. I'm like, oh God, I'm gonna die.
Well, that's kind of where I'm at with my Stumpy Evo. It's like, dude, the 150, like to get it up where I can comfortable riding it, when it's down, it is nowhere near where it needs to be. Yeah, so Snat's asking, when are we bringing the Rad Series to Pisgah, North Carolina?
Where are we bringing the Rad Series?
It's funny that's being asked because I'm in the midst of talking with Mr. Chad Wolf at Trek of Johnson City. So we are talking about it. Yeah, we're talking about it at some point in May. So mid to late May, possible coming to Pisgah, which is, I'm assuming we can call that Asheville. Like sure. I'm assuming they're in a similar area. We're looking at Asheville. So it's going to be a matter of, can we find a place to do it? Can we get enough people interested? It's funny. That's kind of a mecca, I think, of mountain bike coaches. And it's growing every day. There's more coaches. There's more people putting stuff out there, spreading the love, doing different things. Alex, I want to ask you, dude, kind of your take on the Rad Series, because yours is really cool. We obviously didn't work with you. We worked with someone very close to you. So can you tell everybody who you know that came through the Rad Series and what was her outcome after that event?
We're talking with Kat. Is it Kat? No,
who came talking with your wife?
Gina.
Oh, Gina. Oh, she did. That's true.
Yeah.
It was a while ago.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, man, she enjoyed it. I think she's super talented, and it's hard for her to hear what she needs to hear sometimes. So especially if it comes from me. So coming from somebody else was definitely helping. I think she did have a little bit of eye opening on some technical stuff that she was doing, but got kind of the explanation that she was doing that.
Yeah.
So kind of like validating some of the stuff she was doing.
Well, I mean, that went both ways, dude. Like for her to say to us, "Hey, can I come to a 201?" And to provide some context, dude, she rips. I mean, she's done some pro level enduro races, so she's a hell of a rider. But she was humble enough to say, "I skipped right through the basics. I want to look into those to see why am I doing what I'm doing, and maybe I'm doing what I should be, but I don't quite understand why. I'd like to understand why."
But you're doing it because Alex does it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, a little bit of that, but yeah, she's riding with a lot of people. She has been riding with a lot of different people in the past, even before we were together, and like, yeah, she kind of have that copycat stuff, and she's not really afraid, and so, but she picked up, and she's really doing what needs to be done on the bike. Like she can go really fast, really safely, and yeah, it was good.
Cool.
I think to understand what she's doing, because she wouldn't really be able to explain it necessarily.
So when I said we're going to talk about somebody, you said somebody else, Kat?
Yeah.
Well, who's that? Why am I
I
not?
don't know if you remember her.
She's the one who came on the jump.
She came
day.
to a
She
jump
came to
class,
jump day only.
and
Oh, that's right. Oh,
she had the reference without even telling me she was doing that. And
okay. So
the fact that she said that, you guys made her skip the class or whatever, and that was not a good idea. So don't skip the classes.
yeah,
well, as a result of that, I don't think we do that anymore.
we don't do that anymore. And I think, yeah, just again, to give a little backstory, she reached out about her and her friend saying Alex said it was okay for us to come to the jump class. And again, we're going to venture down one of those roads that it seems like we always do when we do this. And so there's no reason to stop now. It was a scenario where she thought she was better than she was, plain and simple. And
well, but part of the, I wouldn't even describe it that way. I would just say that for the context of what we do and the way we do it, it's very important for people to understand our vernacular and our format. And when you come in without that, it would be like trying to play baseball without knowing the rules of the game, even if you're a talented athlete.
Yeah, but dude, here's my challenge. If you play baseball in Japan at a high level, you should be able to come to the U.S. and play baseball at a high level.
If you play baseball, you would know the rules of the game.
Yeah, but dude, she was a mountain biker. She's jumped. She said, "I've jumped mountain bikes. I know how to jump. I just want to get better." And she showed up and she couldn't, dude. She was surrounded by 12 other people that were doing great because they'd been there yesterday, but more importantly, because they were listening. Yeah. She wouldn't listen, dude. And that's why, do you remember what you said to her?
No.
I don't think you do. I don't think you do, dude. She had a friend there, and they basically.
I remember that one of them had red pants just like yours. I thought she stole your pants.
Yeah, dude, you made her cry.
Shut up.
I swear to God, Rob, dude, she in front of everybody basically what I took it as, dude, she called us idiots and she said, "We suck and we're not good coaches." And you looked around at everybody else, dude. I can't believe you don't remember this. You dropped the hammer on her. You said, "Are you kidding me? Look around. Everybody else here is doing way better than you because they're listening. You're not listening. All you're talking about is all these other people that have taught you different things."
That mean.
You were exactly that mean, dude.
I can't believe that.
I swear. And she started crying. And her friend
to you, I think.
Her friend was Eastern Bloc. And her friend looked at you like she was going to snap you in half. And dude, she went out and started hitting the jump, doing exactly what we said, and was having a great time. And that made that girl Kat even more upset because she thought she was good. She had all these certifications. She did all this stuff. And she wouldn't listen, dude. She wouldn't listen. I can't believe you don't remember this, dude. It was one of my proudest moments of you.
I think I have a mental block. I'm sorry.
Dude, you dropped the proverbial hammer on her so hard.
No, what I was upset about this is that she never asked me, and I never said that. You know, I did mention that you guys were my friend and you were doing that class. But
did she ever get back to you after the class?
That was it. No.
Oh, she had some bad things to say after. Yeah.
She didn't say it to me.
No, I mean, she
From
brought
the sound of things, she must not want to talk to me anymore.
It's one of those things where we've said it multiple times, dude. We were being realistic. It's like, you can say all you want, but you're in a group with 15 other people, 12 other people. They're all doing well, and you're not. The problem isn't us. The problem's you. And that's a hard thing, I think, for people to hear sometimes. So,
well,
of course,
if you've done it for a long time and like you think you're good enough or whatever, but sometimes you need that to realize what's going on.
Well, and I think that's kind of where the rubber meets the road. Some people
don't. What we do is different than what other people do. So I'm sure wherever she got her certifications, they do things different than we do them.
Oh, of course.
And so without, to come in without knowing how we do what we do, obviously we break it down a lot more in the class that she didn't attend. And had she been to that class, I think that she would have likely done well, because I know she's an experienced rider. But I could see myself getting offended if she said we were terrible coaches. That would hurt my feelings.
Well, I don't think she used the word terrible coaches, but she kept putting it back on us in front of everybody. Like it really affected her because she was not doing well. It was scary. She was close to crashing. And
I remember that. I do remember that.
And that didn't sit well with her. So we'll move on here. Eric, can you bring an e-bike to the Rad Series? Of course you can.
You can, but Eric, let me just give you some context, because the first event we did in Gilbert, there was somebody with an e-bike, and the problem is there are technical drills that we do, and if you have the power on the e-bike, it can adversely affect the way you handle those drills, and so it becomes cumbersome. It's actually easier on the lift specifically. It's easier to do them without any assist
or level one. Sometimes.
Yeah. Well, my point is, if you're not using the assist, what you've got is a very heavy bike. And so I don't know that it yields a benefit.
Okay. You ready to laugh, Rob?
Yeah.
I love Casey. I become more and more a fan of this guy every time.
What is it? She's oh God, what is his thing? It's something about some kind of martial arts thing. God,
martial arts.
Yeah, no, Joya bike. He uses some kind of like kung fu or.
Casey, if you know what this martial art reference
is, what's there's some kind of like kung fu related thing.
I thought that was he was all about the stoke, dude. I didn't think he was about violence.
Oh, he's a super stokey guy too, but there was some kind of maybe it was Lee's thing on his channel. Maybe Lee's thing was the kung fu thing.
Maybe
I could be conflating the two. I'm sorry.
It could be. This is a funny one. Miguel asks, is the WP suspension on KTM dirt bikes the worst performance that you worked on?
It is not. It's white power.
Yeah.
White power.
Hang on, dude. I gotta get. I don't know. Yeah, the internet. I'm plugging my computer in. I don't know how it came out, but my battery's dying because we're going so hardcore.
No, and actually, I don't even know if Works Performance is still around. It was funny. It was a small company. They were prolific. They made a lot of suspension for a long time, and the stuff was really good. But the guy who owned the company, he had this crazy little computer thing, and he had an algorithm. And so when I was building suspension, I would go to him with dimensions and data, and he would punch everything into this little computer, and it would spit out a little receipt that was the valving that I was supposed to use. And we would take a billet aluminum piston with 6 reliefs in it, and we would drill the holes that would end up being the valving orifices. Yeah. And then we would put, if you flipped it over, it was machined out. You would put a check ball in with a spring, and the springs were different tensions. And depending on the diameter of the holes that you drilled and the spring tension, that would determine how the valving broke down. And there was no manual that said how to do it. You would have to, for every single instance, you would go to this guy. His name was Gil, and you would give him the information, and he would punch it in and spit out the receipt, and you would go out and you would build the shocks. It's crazy.
That's out there, man. That's wild.
Yeah,
I have let's get some more questions. There's 70 people. Throw some more questions out. I have one for you because, again, somebody made a comment on the Firebird and told me I got the model year wrong. And I told him, I don't think Pivot does model years.
No model
yeah,
year
they don't.
anymore.
They don't do model years. They just do versions, and usually a version will run for 4 years before they revamp it or delete it.
So hopefully, whoever asked that is listening.
Yeah, more and more companies now try to not do model years.
Well, then one thing that I talked to Chris on a few occasions about was, why don't you just change the colorway every year as kind of a refresh? Because if you come out with a color that somebody who's already got like a Switchblade, but they like the new color, and that, so now they're doing that. So you'll notice that, like with the Switchblade, they came out with the green and the blue. Everybody wanted the green. I got a blue,
of course.
But then they came out with the
Sandstorm.
And that, or Mojave. Sorry, Sandstorm was the Firebird. That's Mojave is the Switchblade, and that I think is the most popular color.
Oh, of course it is. Like tan walls, so hot right now.
Yeah.
So Alex, Cody wants to know favorite tech trail you've ever ridden, and favorite views that you've ever ridden.
I mean, tech trail. I don't know what he means by that, but
the most technical.
I think one of my favorite trail that I can put on the list is Greens Creek in Colorado. It's called. It's off of Monarch Crest Trail.
I figured Monarch Crest would be one.
It's not the actual Monarch Crest. Monarch Crest kind of a traverse, but then there's a bunch of creeks you can drop in. So I think Green Creeks I love today is still kind of one of my favorite. It just lasts forever, and it's pretty much all down and has some technical section. It's really fast overall. Views, that's hard to tell. I mean, I used to do some big rides behind the Mont Blanc, so there's pretty big views over there. I mean, where we were in Spain, it was a lot of views.
Pretty fantastic.
There we go. Let's pause.
Hangover has a lot of views, so views are kind of everywhere, really.
Let's talk about Spain, fellas. How was Spain?
Spain was really, really good. I'm very thankful that Alex invited me to that trip.
So who was on that trip?
Worked out pretty good.
It was Alex, Kyle Mears, Eric. What's Eric's last name?
Rodriguez.
Eric Rodriguez, Kyle, Eric, Randy Suter from Tucson, myself, and Fabrice and Johan, who are both French guys, longtime friends of Alex's. Fabrice has like a guiding company, right? Mm-hmm. So he basically put the logistics all together for the deal, and he picked us up at the airport, and then we had his van and a trailer with all our bikes in it, and he kind of handled all the details.
I don't want to discredit him, but I used him to do the logistics, is what I would put it at.
Oh, so like you?
Yeah, so like I organized everything. I had the lodging, I had everything, and then I was like, "Can you come and pick us up and use your van and use your trailer?" And then jump.
See, I was giving Fabrice too much credit.
Well,
Alex. Well, but I will say, I know that Alex is really good about handling that kind of stuff. There's been other occasions previous to that where he offered me spots on trips that he organized, and for one reason or another, I wasn't able to make it. But.
So let's kind of sidebar for a second here, because we still have 68 people listening. On that note, we've talked about the Drew Brothers experience here for who knows how long, and Sedona is one of the places that we'd like to go. So it's now 71 people. If anybody out there is listening and you're down to drop a pretty exorbitant amount of money on like a 4-day weekend riding with the Drew Brothers and the Red Mountain Goat in Sedona, let me know. Shoot me a message on
getting bike set up.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, like we could do all that stuff. Alex and I, last time we rode, we talked a lot about that. But it would be one where Alex would be planning a lot of it. We would lean heavily on him because it's his town, but he's also really good about that. So we've talked a lot about it, and we would definitely like to do it, but it's one of those things where we need to know who would be into doing it and all that stuff. So
yeah, well, if we do it there and Alex is involved, obviously everybody participating gets the benefit of his knowledge on suspension setup, bike setup, you know, every aspect of the trails we'll ride, where the best places to go are. I mean, you'll get to ride stuff that you otherwise would never see.
Yeah.
I can tell you that for sure.
Well, our buddy Steve would do it for a lot less money. Here's what it comes down to, Steve. The endeavor that we're talking about undertaking, the costs are going to be high. And so that's just it. If you're going to do something with the Drew brothers and bring the Red Mountain Goat in, it gets down to a certain level. And that level is really high.
The top level.
And it's not really us making money. It's us having to pay a lot of money to even put it together.
Yeah. Well, like Sedona, you want quality, you got to pay for that.
So Rob, Spain, I mean, you shared some incredible stories about it, a big group of rippers. I mean, what were some of the high spots of that trip?
Well, so the first thing that was most impactful for me was some of the places that we went predate the United States by thousands of years. Like, these are built structures where people lived thousands of years before this country even existed. And that to stand in those places and look out and around at the amazing scenery it's breathtaking. I mean, I can't explain it any other way. And we literally got there on bikes. I mean, surely you might be able to drive there somehow, but most of the stuff we encountered was mid-ride. You know, we'd go out on these 30-mile rides and we'd come across these abandoned villages and these like old castles. And it was crazy, man. It was amazing.
So a 30-mile ride, what sort of elevation, time frame?
Oh yeah, it was, I mean, we were doing like 5,000 feet a day rides. And they were, you know, we had like water crossings, and I mean, it was every day. It was like epic rides. And then there was a couple of spots where we got on these trails that were good shuttle trails. And I'm talking like good shuttle trails.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because I have all the footage and I've never done anything with it. I've gone back and watched it. Yeah. I've gone back and watched it, and it's so good. It's just, I gotta dig it out and do something with it.
You have so much footage of so many things that you've never done anything with. Let's change that. Come on, dude. 22 is your year.
I know.
Start using that
$7,000 Spain trip to get Alex inspired to do another one.
Yeah, I'd like to. The travel these days is a little difficult, but
well, what's crazy is we were in Barcelona in February of 2020 as COVID was literally exploding all over that city, and we had no idea.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, we barely got out. We got lucky.
Buddy, Exorbitant. I don't know. I'm thinking if we're going to do it, it's got to be a Friday, Saturday, Sunday sort of thing. What do you think?
Yeah, or Thursday, Friday, Saturday, leave on Sunday.
I mean, I think come in on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, half day, Sunday, leave late on a Sunday. You know, it's tough to say, dude, but I'd say you got to budget $1,000 a day. We'll look into it. We'll break it down a little bit and see. And
well, the way you want to do it, you want to stay someplace nice. You want to eat at nice restaurants. You want to have all the logistics squared away so that it's every aspect of it is enjoyable for the people participating.
Yeah, and you know what those costs are, I don't know. We have it built out here. Like, we have it set up to do in Bentonville, and I have some dates blocked out for it. It's just a matter of, I mean, with everything going on, do we pull the trigger? I mean, there's only so many weekends that I have off to do nothing.
Yeah.
And like, it's like today, dude, I wrote good morning on an email to somebody and realized it was 3 p.m.
I do that on the trail all the time. Good morning. It's like,
oh, dude,
5 in the evening. Oh, yeah, sorry.
I was laying down voiceover for 4 hours, like, not in the closet. I set up a studio in the closet because that sound is great. And dude, I've just been in there nonstop. It's just, and Sarah, Yeah, the audio is great. It's just Sarah was on. She was on the computer all day doing like payroll and QuickBooks. It just. Ugh. So Dan says Copper Harbor, Michigan has some great views and great trails. I've heard that many times. Hope to get there someday. Dan, are you in Michigan? Because we're looking at coming to Ann Arbor, the DT Energy or something. They have some cool trails out there apparently. Look at this, Robert Boyle.
Boom, $4.99. Nice.
He says, "Nice shirt, Alex."
It's a Red Mountain Goat. You can get one of those.
Trail print.
Yeah, go to Trail Print. You can order your own.
The Red Mountain Goat.
Yeah.
We could do something in like October, November, right? It's still good and rideable out there, isn't it?
Yeah, that's one of the best times.
So Casey's asking, what sort of skill level would you think for that? Like decent, intermediate, probably.
Yeah, intermediate to advanced, I would say.
Yeah,
if you want to ride the greatest hits trails, see the greatest views, you really need to be a good intermediate level rider plus.
And
fitness level, Casey, I'd say start EPO now and you'll be ready for October.
Yeah, a lot of intervals just because of how the trails are and a lot of rocks and technical together. So we have kind of a set rule that a mile in Sedona is a mile and a half or 2 in a lot of other places, just as the physical aspect of it.
Yeah. Casey, just get with Lance Armstrong, dude. Whatever he was doing at his peak, just follow that program and you're good, dude. Little blood doping.
Yeah, a lot of drugs.
Oh,
yeah.
Just blood.
Yeah, just blood bags. Everything will be good. We can make it happen. I'd like to do it. I think it would be really cool. I love Sedona, and I think it's easy logistically to get into Phoenix and get up there.
Thanks, Rico.
Our man Rico coming in. Thanks, dude. Thanks for turning in. We like Rico. Rico's a rad dude.
Yeah, Rico's
made a cool post recently. So what do you have coming up, Alex? Anything exciting that you can talk about, or just kind of status quo?
Yeah, I mean, not too much, just working, riding these days, and then
racing the cars.
Actually, yeah, a lot of car racing.
Yeah.
So
now you seem to be into that car racing, dude.
Well, I would have not raced bikes if it wasn't for car racing. I just start racing what I could.
Yeah.
I couldn't buy a car. I still don't even have a car. I'm racing somebody else's car. So
isn't that the best way to do it?
That's
Race cars, planes, boats, somebody else's.
It's a pretty good setup for sure.
So Buddy says we can't forget the trail snack of the French.
Yeah.
The baguette.
Yeah, we have it. We had 2 of them on Sunday.
Yeah, Nate came through with the best gift for Alex.
Couple baguettes, couple fresh ones.
Couple baguettes. Yeah, they were running around like they were getting ready for a breadstick sword fight.
There we go. Rico's $4.99, dude. Thank you, Rico. We're gonna buy next time I see Alex. I'm gonna buy him a baguette.
You can get a couple.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing a race in Glorieta. So like Mike Day bought the Revolution Enduro series last year. So Mike Day used to basically run the BME, even though Brendan is the owner. It took some time away for a few years, and now he just bought that series. And so last year I wanted to try to make it to 1, but it just didn't really work. And his schedule just came out, and the first one is Glorieta, so it's close enough for me to go. It's a good time for me to go. So
it's a good venue.
Planning to do that. And then, the Trans BC is going to be the biggest one. And then a couple other races after that, which Brian Head, I'm going to go again. I like that place. It's pretty fun. Other than that, I don't have a lot of testing these days. Like the same stuff that's happening with the retails is happening for testing. Like they have a hard time to produce what they need to test. So
are you only doing that one Revolution race?
Yeah, I think so. The rest is a little far for me to go.
Dude, Rich just went into a spiraling circle.
Yep. It's going in the hole.
Yeah. I wonder what happened to him.
Not sure.
Yeah, somebody cut into his Wi-Fi. So you're going to do just one Revolution race and one BME race?
Yeah. And then the Trans BC. And then I'm going to go to Monticello again.
Oh, nice.
Because I like
that's
it's not really a race. It's like it's like an event.
Yeah, it's a great time. If anybody hasn't heard of it, it's called the Abajo Enduro in Monticello, Utah. There's a little mountain range there called the Abajo Mountain, and they do a what is it? Rome Industry?
Yeah,
is that their company?
Rome Industry.
Rome Industry. They put the event on. They do some other outdoor stuff. They're
a guiding company, so they do a lot of ski touring in the winter, and they do have guiding for like hut biking also. But yeah, they put that event together just kind of for fun, and it's limited to 50 people, and it's just kind of a big group ride every day. But the trails are really good.
Yeah, some huge stages, some big cows. One of the stages I remember had a like an 8-minute hard pedal climb in the middle of it. It was tough.
Kind of, yeah.
But the trails are really good. I would say super underrated. What happened to you there, buddy?
My computer died.
That's pro status.
I thought it was plugged in, but it wasn't plugged in. Anyways, sorry. I'm glad you guys kept the ball rolling.
I wasn't sure if we'd stay live or if we'd drop out.
I think you are.
Yeah, I'm looking at the timers staying live. It was running the whole time.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't.
If somebody can jump on and tell me if we lost anything other than Rich.
Yeah, I don't think you did. What I was asking is, are you going to do any other Revolution races? Because I thought about trying to get to the last two.
Yeah, probably not, because they're pretty far away from me.
So we're going to be in Colorado.
The time frame is just not going to work.
Yeah, late July is in Steamboat. August is in Snowmass. So
yeah, Snowmass is a really good one.
I was going to talk to you, Rob, to see if you wanted to potentially do Snowmass.
Yeah, I talked to him about the trail he uses, and it's pretty far. I mean, I think he uses still a few trails in the park, but mainly it's not the park.
Yeah, he was always the one really behind nice. Cutting in the good trails there.
Yeah. It's not called Little Mountain Enduro.
That's right.
Right.
That's my favorite Mike Day. I can't believe I'm even gonna put this question up, but I'm gonna do it. Rob, check your breathing. Alex, do you clip in?
Yes, I do. I can ride flats and I can do everything the same. It's just that much harder. So I do clip in.
Yeah, I got myself into a little flats versus clips quandary the other night.
With who?
Well, like there's no argument. You got to learn on flats to do the right thing with the bikes. But once you know that, there's no reason to stay on flats, in my opinion, especially on technical trails.
Yeah, it was an article. Somebody wrote an article that said how to switch back to flats. And there was a lot of great insight about riding flats and things to do on flats. But like somebody said, it made a big difference in my riding. And I don't know. It's just one of those scenarios where pedals don't teach anything. Like all these people say, oh, the pedals teach bad habits. It's an inanimate object. It doesn't teach you anything. You pick up bad habits. So my thing is, if you want to ride clips, to go away from them and then get better riding flats, why not just take the time to get better at riding clips? Yeah, and that's the thing for me that I just don't understand. Oh, you're cheating.
You know what the biggest problem with me in flats is that my foot is never in the same place.
Of course not. Like, why would it be?
It bothers me a lot. Like that picky was, just we talk about the seat height being 2 millimeters off. I can feel that.
It's funny. Somebody had the nerve.
If in the wrong place, then
it
doesn't work.
somebody had the nerve on this article in the comments to write that that's a bad thing. Oh, having your foot in the same place is a bad thing because you can't move it around to get a power position when climbing. And I just,
position. It's my pedals, my feet are always in the power position.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, the problem is people who, I mean, do what you want to do. People who like riding in flat pedals will make all kind of arguments why people clipped in are knuckleheads and vice versa. So, I mean, whatever, do what you like, enjoy your ride.
Yeah.
I don't feel that anything I might do on flat pedals will benefit me being clipped in.
I agree.
I'm quite happy. I'm quite happy to leverage my clipped in feet.
Eric, let's shift topics here, dude.
Yeah.
A2, you ready for a little A2?
For sure.
What
Very exciting.
Watching everything every day.
have you heard? AC is out.
Yeah.
Santarulo.
Yeah. Jacked up knee.
He was already out anyway. He should have come late and do a nice end of season and get his factory ride confirmed because it's a contract year.
Yeah.
He has that for the season. So
Yeah.
I don't know if it was a good move to just be there halfway, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. If he would have finished strong the last 3 rounds, it would have been much better for him.
Who were you guys putting your money on? A2.
I don't know. I saw the track preview today, and it looks pretty gnarly. But there is like 2 big rhythm sections where I feel like somebody like Tomac or Malcolm can get some lines that nobody's gonna do.
Oh yeah.
Based on the preview.
Yeah.
They're kind of good at doing that. But there is 2 pretty long whoop sections also. So whoever can do the whoops right is gonna be a big deal. And then the start is like extremely long. It goes all across the field.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks cool. I think hang on. Yep, I got a little Mookie fever.
The Mookie fever.
Right?
Yeah, I'm ready, dude. I want him to break out. I think Sexton's going to go well. I think Anderson's going to come out like gangbusters.
Yeah, those guys both have so much confidence, and that's a huge piece of the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. What? Let's see here. I'm going to look and see if we have anything else that we're going to talk about because we got. Oh, look at this, Miguel. Tomac wins title on consistency. Craig's comeback was legit. Like I really like.
That was the kind of ride I haven't seen in a decade.
Yeah.
Like the talent pool is so deep, you just don't see a guy pull one out like that, and that's what it takes. You need a guy with a lot of heart, a ton of skill, and unbelievable tenacity to get up off the ground in freaking last place after crashing hard.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And everything's tweaked and bent. So he takes about 2 laps to get reacclimate to it and then just drops the hammer.
Yeah.
I mean, that was very impressive.
I can't tell you how angry I got when Freezy held him up. Dude, I wanted, and I was talking to Rhino yesterday, we had lunch. I said, dude, if I ever see that guy, ever, anywhere, I don't even know what he looks like, but if I know it's him, I'm going to punch him square in his throat.
Yeah, he's always been that guy that he might as well have rear view mirrors on his bike because he's less concerned about riding his best race than he is about screwing up the guy trying to pass him. And I really felt because he's getting great starts, and although he's kind of gotten demoted to the lights class, he's delivering. He's having great rides. And if this was a chance for him to win some new fans, and instead he's just going to continue to be the dick that he's always been.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate.
Yeah, that's crazy. Eric, no, I don't listen to Bubba's pod. I've listened to a tiny bit of it. I have it queued up for some of these drives because I love that dude. Like he is without a doubt my all-time favorite rider.
I have the 1 and 2, and it's taking quite a long time to get another one out. So I'm not sure where he's at with it.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, it seems like he kind of gets into it when he wants to, and then he's out, whatever, kind of doing his thing. But man, I like the looks of him. Like he's in pretty good shape. I watched a video from the Deegans, and he was riding. He was on a Honda, and he was riding around a little bit. So I hope that means he's out at least riding a little bit. There you go. Eric says it came out today.
All right.
So I will check that out. But also, Eric, I don't know if you listen to Righteous Rants with Rich and sometimes Rob. every once in a while. Alex, I've been putting out new podcasts recently, and I'll put out some more here soon. I don't know when. I don't know when, dude. We're so busy, dude. I have to go up. My van is packed with boxes to drive to Carthage tomorrow to be in a studio shooting beauty shots of product. Then we're in a different studio all Saturday. Then we're on the trail all Sunday. It's going to be wide open, dude.
Busy weekend.
Yeah. Yeah. Very busy weekend. All right. Last question. Cody Batten gets it. If you could only have one style of bike, what would it be?
Probably just a trail bike. So
yeah,
trail bike is pretty vague now, but
what would be the numbers like?
I would say like something that's 140, 150 bike that I can do pretty much everything with is
something like an Evo.
Yeah, like an Evo is a pretty good one bike to do it.
Like there's a company called Propane has a bike that's in that realm.
Propane.
Yeah, Propane.
The Hugene.
Propane. I'll tell you, Cody, I'd go my Stumpy Evo. Like if I had to choose one,
yeah,
I think that would be a solid choice. Stumpy Evo or, dude, my Levo SL. I just love that bike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't say that. I sold mine.
I know, dude. I know. Mine is super clean. Like I had it in, they went through and serviced it all up, and like they had it upside down and cleaned the bottom of it. I mean, dude, it looks brand new.
Well, at least I know I can ride yours when I come out. So
no,
sorry.
No, I saw what yours looked like.
All right. Well, are you kidding me?
Please, I'm just impressed with how much money you sold it for.
Yeah, well, it was beautiful. It was mine, so somebody had to pay a premium.
Exactly. Yeah, we went 2 hours, and we'll eclipse 2 hours and 12 minutes. So that was pretty good. I don't feel like we forced that. I think we could still probably go, but I had 60. Over under was 60. When it got below 60, we had to pull the plug. So, Alex, thank you. I've been looking forward to this for a while, dude.
Alex. Yeah.
You did not disappoint. So we'll have to do it again. I think when we're out there, man, we might try to find a way to do it where we're all together. I don't know how the logistics of that are going to work.
Maybe at the festival.
I don't even want to get into that, dude. I don't even want to get into that.
I wonder if we can figure out how to do it with GoPros.
You can. I think you can stream with a GoPro. It would be cool to just set them up.
Yeah. If we had a bunch of them.
Yeah, we can try it and see. We talked about it at the festival. We talked about doing a couple things, and
we need a producer who can be like camera one, camera two.
We got shut down with some of the things that we wanted to do, which was kind of a bummer because I thought they'd be a great value add to the festival. But hey, that's the way it works.
Politics.
Yep. Good old politics. But yeah, dude, that'd be cool. We'll definitely need to do it again. Doing it from the festival would be good. Maybe we can just go find a place and set up a couple cameras and do some live Q&A. I'll talk to a few people. All right.
Well, if anybody has a question for Alex that didn't get posted up, they want to ask him, you can reach him on Instagram at the Red Mountain Goat, or is it just Red Mountain Goat? Yeah, Red Mountain Goat. If you got a question for me, the Rob Drew at Instagram. Rich Drew at Instagram. If you didn't hit the like button, smash it now.
Smash it now. Listen to you.
Ring the bell. Make sure to get alerted when posts come up.
Look at you, dude. You know all the
new information on Rich Drew's YouTube channel.
I think we're getting close to 50,000. So 50,000 subscribers. I don't know if anything changes. It's just cool, I think, to say.
Friends, tell your neighbors.
Yeah, and then
blow the lid off this house.
Check this out. I didn't even know this. Sarah pointed this out earlier. Hang on. If anybody doesn't follow me on Instagram, follow me. I'm at 9,991 followers.
Oh, let's take it over the 10K mark, baby.
So I guess if you go over 10K, you can apply to get the little blue check mark.
Oh, you get the little certification thing?
Yeah.
I tried to get that, and they basically ghosted me.
You don't have 10,000?
Sorry, you're nobody. No, I do not have that.
Yeah, you have to have 10,000.
Yeah, so anybody checking in to follow Rich just while you're at it. I mean, why not just follow me too?
Yeah. If you want to go to a Rad Series clinic, they're out there. We're going to Houston, San Diego, Phoenix, couple in Bentonville. Rob Drew will be out Bentonville. So after that, Oklahoma is going to be one. Like, we're going to hit Kansas City. We're going to try to do Tennessee.
Come out to the Ride Series and let me make you cry.
He won't do that. All right, guys. Have a good night.
Over and out, buddy.
Peace out, dumpers.
Have
Over and out. Over and peace out.
Over and peace out.
Later.